Picture yourself standing in a dusty saloon in Dodge City, 1875. The air thick with tobacco smoke and tension. A stranger walks through those swinging doors, and every conversation stops. Not because of his face or his reputation, but because of what's hanging on his hip. That gleaming piece of steel that could transform an ordinary man into a legend or a corpse in the span of 3 seconds. You think the Wild West was won by grit and determination alone? Think again. It was won by men who understood that survival came down to one simple equation. The right iron plus deadly skill equals walking away while your enemies don't. These weren't just weapons. They were mechanical philosophers that spoke the only language the frontier understood. Pure, uncompromising violence delivered with precision engineering. Today we're diving into the most lethal, innovative, and downright terrifying revolvers that didn't just arm the American West. They created it. These are the weapons that transformed desperate men into walking legends and turned split-second decisions into folklore that still echoes through history. From hand cannons so massive they required special holsters to precision instruments that could place bullets exactly where death needed to happen, these revolvers wrote the rulebook for frontier survival. But here's what most people don't understand about Wild West gunfighting. It wasn't about being the fastest draw. It was about carrying the right weapon for the right situation and knowing how to use it when your life depended on perfect execution. Every revolver we're about to explore represents a different survival philosophy. Raw stopping power versus lightning speed. Mechanical reliability versus cutting-edge innovation. Single devastating shots versus overwhelming firepower. Get ready to discover weapons so advanced they seemed like magic to men accustomed to single-shot pistols. Revolvers that could fire faster than modern soldiers. Combination weapons that packed shotgun surprises, and the ultimate fighting system that made its owners virtually unbeatable in any gunfight. These aren't just the famous names you've heard in movies. We're talking about forgotten masterpieces that revolutionized warfare and weapons so deadly their mere reputation could end conflicts before they started. The Colt Walker, the hand cannon that started a revolution. Imagine holding a weapon so massive it couldn't be worn on your hip, like a normal revolver. Picture trying to draw something that weighed over 4 pounds and stretched nearly 16 inches long. The Colt Walker wasn't just a revolver. It was a declaration of war against anything foolish enough to stand in its path. Born from the collaborative genius of Samuel Colt and Texas Ranger Captain Samuel Walker, this monster emerged from a very specific problem. The Rangers needed something that could stop a mounted Comanche warrior at 50 yards with absolute certainty. What they got was essentially a portable cannon disguised as a handgun. The Walker fired a .44 caliber ball propelled by enough black powder to generate muzzle energy comparable to modern Magnum cartridges. When a Texas Ranger pulled that trigger, the target didn't just fall down. They were physically launched backward by the massive bullet's impact. The psychological warfare aspect was incredible. Native American warriors would literally break off attacks when they saw Rangers drawing these mechanical monsters. But here's the deadly catch that separated the survivors from the statistics. Those massive powder charges often exceeded what the cylinder could safely contain. More than a few Rangers found themselves holding twisted pieces of exploded metal instead of a functioning weapon. The Walker's incredible power came with life-threatening risks that made every shot a gamble with your own survival. The European Challenge. Pinfire innovation. While American gunmakers perfected percussion cap technology, European inventors were developing something that looked like it came from the future. The Le Faucheux pinfire revolver introduced cartridge loading to a world still fumbling with loose powder and wadding. Instead of the laborious process of loading each component separately, shooters simply inserted complete cartridges and were ready for action. French officers brought these technological marvels to America during the Civil War, and they quickly found their way into civilian hands. Cowboys who acquired pinfire revolvers discovered they had weapons literally years ahead of their competition. While enemies struggled with powder flasks and percussion caps, pinfire users could reload and be back in the fight within seconds. The tactical advantage was enormous, but the system had a terrifying flaw. Those protruding pins made the cartridges incredibly dangerous to carry. A sharp impact could detonate ammunition in your pocket, transforming your tactical advantage into a hand grenade that could end your career permanently. The British Revolution. Double-action dominance picture, facing an opponent who didn't need to manually cock his hammer between shots. While you were fumbling with your single-action revolver, trying to get off a second shot, he was already firing his fourth round. The Beaumont Adams revolver brought double-action firing to the American frontier, fundamentally changing how gunfights were won and lost. This British innovation allowed shooters to fire simply by pulling the trigger. No manual cocking required. The continuous trigger pull meant sustained fire at rates that seemed impossible to opponents accustomed to single-action mechanisms. Cowboys who acquired these revolvers discovered significant advantages in close-quarters combat situations. Saloon fights heavily favored the double-action system. The ability to fire as fast as you could pull the trigger often meant the difference between walking away and being carried out in a pine box. The psychological impact on opponents was devastating. The sound of continuous fire often caused enemies to seek cover, believing they were facing multiple shooters instead of one man with superior technology. The American Doctor's masterpiece. Combination warfare. What happens when a New Orleans doctor decides that 9 revolver shots aren't enough firepower for true battlefield dominance? You get one of the most ingenious and deadly combination weapons ever created. A revolver that packed a devastating shotgun surprise capable of clearing an entire room. Dr. Jean-Alexandre Lemaille created this masterpiece by combining a 9-shot 42 caliber cylinder with a central 20-gauge shotgun barrel. Think about facing this weapon in combat. You're counting shots, thinking your opponent is empty after 6 rounds. Suddenly, he still has 3 revolver shots, plus a shotgun blast, that could eliminate multiple targets simultaneously. Confederate cavalry officers made this weapon legendary during the Civil War, but it quickly found its way into civilian hands. The switching mechanism was brilliantly simple. Just move a lever on the hammer to select between the revolver cylinder or the shotgun barrel. Wild Bill Hickok was rumored to carry a Lee mat during his time as a lawman, appreciating its ability to handle multiple opponents with devastating effectiveness. The weapon's reputation grew so fearsome that simply revealing one was often enough to end confrontations without bloodshed. The revolver function provided accuracy for precision work, while the shotgun barrel could stop charging horses or multiple attackers with a single blast. But the Lemat's incredible versatility came with serious drawbacks. The intricate mechanism was prone to fouling under frontier conditions, and the extra weight made it cumbersome for everyday carry. This relegated it to specific situations where overwhelming firepower mattered more than convenience. The gentleman's fighter. Perfected balance. Sometimes revolutionary advances came not from adding complexity, but from perfecting the elegant simplicity that made revolvers appealing in the first place. The Colt Navy model of 1851 represented the perfect balance between power and refinement. A revolver so beautifully proportioned, it felt like an extension of your hand, yet deadly enough to end any frontier conflict with authority. Despite its naval designation, this model was actually more popular with civilians than sailors. The .36 caliber was considered the perfect compromise between stopping power and controllability. It packed enough punch to drop a man with proper shot placement, while remaining manageable enough for rapid, accurate follow-up shots. The revolver's balance was absolutely exceptional. Unlike heavier models that were muzzle-heavy or awkward to handle, the Navy Colt pointed naturally and allowed for smooth, controlled shooting. This made it particularly effective in rapid-fire situations where split-second accuracy determined survival. Wild Bill Hickok made this revolver legendary, carrying a matched pair in his famous red sash. His incredible marksmanship demonstrations became frontier folklore, including shots that seemed impossible with handguns of that era. Hickok's endorsement transformed the Navy Colt into the choice of serious gunfighters who staked their lives on precise shot placement. Wealthy cowboys often had their Navy Colts elaborately engraved and fitted with ivory grips, transforming them into status symbols as well as deadly instruments. But beneath all that decoration lay a seriously lethal revolver that had proven itself in countless frontier conflicts. The main limitation was stopping power. While the .36 caliber was adequate for most situations, it sometimes failed to immediately incapacitate determined opponents. The military's demand: raw stopping power. When the military recognized the Navy's success, they demanded something with all its handling characteristics, but significantly more bone-crushing power. Colt's response was the Army Model of 1860, a purpose-built fighting machine designed to end conflicts with absolute authority. The Army 1860 packed a devastating .44 caliber punch, while retaining the perfect balance that made Colt revolvers legendary. Union cavalry used these to devastating effect during the Civil War, then brought them west where they found new life in the hands of cowboys, lawmen, and settlers facing the unforgiving frontier. That 8-inch barrel provided rifle-like accuracy at ranges exceeding 100 yards, making it effective for hunting large game and long-range defense situations. But what made the Army Colt particularly deadly was its psychological impact. That massive .44 caliber muzzle got everyone's attention immediately, and the weapon's reputation for one-shot stops made opponents think twice about continuing any confrontation. Many gunfights ended the moment someone produced an Army Colt. The robust construction handled frontier abuse perfectly, functioning reliably even when dirty, wet, or damaged by harsh conditions. However, the size and weight made concealed carry nearly impossible, and that long barrel was slow to clear leather in fast-draw situations. The speed revolution, double-action dominance. As the frontier evolved from battlefields to city streets, there was growing demand for revolvers that prioritized lightning speed over pure stopping power. The Colt Lightning answered this call by bringing true double-action firing to American revolvers, creating a weapon that could overwhelm opponents through sheer rate of fire. Imagine facing someone who could fire as fast as he could pull the trigger with no need to manually cock the hammer between shots. The Lightning's mechanism allowed continuous fire at rates that seemed impossible to enemies accustomed to single-action revolvers. While opponents fumbled with hammer cocking for second shots, Lightning users were already delivering their fourth or fifth rounds. Available in .38 and .41 calibers, it provided adequate stopping power while prioritizing speed and controllability. The revolver's innovative design included solid frame construction that was stronger than traditional designs, while the side-loading gate made reloading faster and more convenient than competing models. Professional gunfighters quickly recognized its advantages in multiple opponent situations. Several famous lawmen adopted Lightnings as primary weapons, understanding that sustained fire capability could mean the difference between survival and death when facing overwhelming odds. The Lightning's reputation for speed made it popular among gamblers who might need to draw and fire quickly in confined saloon spaces. But the heavy trigger pull required extensive practice to master effectively. Many found their accuracy suffered during rapid fire, and the complex mechanism needed more maintenance than simpler designs. Still, for those who mastered its operation, the Lightning provided a significant tactical advantage in close-quarters combat. The cartridge revolution. Reloading reimagined. While Colt experimented with rapid-fire mechanisms, Smith and Wesson pursued an entirely different approach to revolutionizing revolver technology. Picture a revolver that could be completely reloaded in under 10 seconds. While opponents still laboriously rammed balls down their muzzle-loading cylinders, the Model 3 didn't just introduce cartridge loading to the frontier. It revolutionized the entire concept of what a fighting revolver could accomplish. The Model 3's top-break action was unlike anything most Americans had ever seen. Press a latch and the barrel hinged forward, automatically ejecting all spent cartridges simultaneously. Insert 6 fresh rounds, snap the action closed, and you were ready to fight again. This reloading speed gave users enormous tactical advantages when seconds meant life or death. The .44 American cartridge developed specifically for this revolver packed serious stopping power, while precision manufacturing made it incredibly accurate. The automatic ejection system meant no fumbling with ramrods or stuck cases during critical moments when enemies were advancing with deadly intent. Russian military contracts made this revolver internationally famous, and many found their way to the American frontier through various channels. Cowboys who acquired Model 3s discovered they had weapons literally years ahead of their competition, in both technology and capability. The revolver's balance and handling were exceptional, with the top-break design actually improving natural pointing characteristics. However, the complex mechanism was potentially more fragile than traditional solid-frame designs, and replacement parts were difficult to obtain on the remote frontier. When something broke, you might find yourself holding an expensive paperweight in hostile territory. The solid frame solution: unbreakable reliability. When Colt's patents expired, other manufacturers rushed to create their own revolvers. Remington's response was a weapon that took everything good about Colt's design and made it stronger, more reliable, and more deadly. The Remington New Model Army became the choice of shooters who valued rock-solid reliability above all else. The key innovation was the solid frame design. While Colt revolvers used removable cylinders held by wedges, the Remington cylinder was completely enclosed in a solid steel frame. This made it incredibly strong and able to handle heavier powder charges that would destroy weaker revolvers. The .44 caliber chamber matched Colt's power, but the stronger construction allowed more powerful loads. Cowboys who pushed Remingtons to their limits achieved velocities and stopping power exceeding anything else available in the 1860s and 70s. The solid frame also improved accuracy by reducing flex between components, maintaining tighter shot groups at longer ranges. Many famous gunfighters preferred Remingtons for their legendary reliability. The solid construction meant fewer mechanical failures, and the simple design made field repairs easier when problems did occur. The loading lever was positioned more conveniently than on Colts, making reloading faster and less awkward under pressure. However, the solid frame made it slightly heavier than comparable Colts, and cylinder removal for cleaning was more difficult. Before either Colt or Remington perfected their designs, there existed an even more massive revolver that established the very concept of handheld cannons. The Colt Dragoon wasn't just big. It was absolutely massive, designed for mounted troops who needed to stop enemies at pistol range with absolute certainty. Weighing over 4 pounds with a 7.5-inch barrel, the Dragoon fired the largest practical handgun cartridge of its era. The .44 caliber ball, pushed by enough black powder to create muzzle flashes visible for miles, could punch through multiple opponents or drop horses with single shots. Mounted dragoons made this legendary during the Mexican-American War through devastating charges against infantry formations. The psychological impact of mounted soldiers wielding these massive revolvers often broke enemy formations before combat even began. The Dragoon's reputation for incredible stopping power made it popular among civilians facing multiple attackers or dangerous game. The massive construction made it virtually indestructible under normal use. Stories exist of Dragoons being used as clubs after ammunition ran out, then continuing to function perfectly as firearms afterward. This durability made them ideal for frontier conditions, where replacement weapons were completely unavailable. However, the enormous size made civilian use impractical, concealment impossible, and quick draws challenging due to sheer bulk. As the frontier matured, there was increasing demand for revolvers combining power with technological advancement, rather than pure brute force. The automatic ejector marvel, revolutionary reloading. Imagine a revolver that could eject all spent cartridges automatically with a simple barrel twist, making reloading faster than any other design of its era. The Merwin and Hulbert was so advanced, it seemed like magic to cowboys accustomed to laboriously picking out spent cases individually. The unique reloading system worked by twisting the barrel and pulling forward, automatically extracting all fired cases while leaving unfired cartridges in the cylinder. This selective ejection meant reloading only chambers actually fired, saving ammunition and time in crucial moments when enemies were closing distance rapidly. The 4440 caliber provided excellent stopping power and used the same ammunition as Winchester rifles, making supply simple for cowboys carrying both weapons. This interchangeability was a significant practical advantage where ammunition variety created logistical nightmares in remote territories far from supply lines. The revolver's accuracy was exceptional, partly due to innovative barrel attachment systems. Tight lockup between barrel and frame eliminated looseness plaguing other designs, resulting in consistently tight shot groups at extended ranges. Several notable lawmen adopted Merwin and Hulberts for their rapid reloading capability, and the unusual appearance made them instantly recognizable across the frontier. However, the complex mechanism required more maintenance than simpler designs. Replacement parts were difficult to obtain outside major cities, and the unusual operation required extensive training to master effectively under stress. The Legend Maker. Extended range dominance. For all the mechanical marvels being created, sometimes the most effective approach was taking proven designs and extending them to seemingly impossible extremes. Picture a revolver with a barrel so long it looked more like a carbine than a handgun, yet could be drawn and fired with devastating accuracy at ranges where other revolvers were completely useless. The Buntline Special wasn't just a weapon, it was a legend that grew larger with every telling. The 12-inch barrel provided exceptional accuracy and velocity, turning the .45 Colt cartridge into a long-range powerhouse that defied conventional handgun limitations. At distances where other revolvers threw bullets hopefully, the Buntline placed shots with rifle-like precision. This capability made it devastating in skilled marksmen's hands. Wyatt Earp's alleged use during his time in Dodge City and Tombstone became frontier legend. Whether fact or fiction, stories of Earp making impossible shots with his long-barreled Colt captured the entire frontier's imagination. The weapon became synonymous with legendary marksmanship. The extended barrel allowed more complete powder burn, extracting maximum velocity from cartridges. This resulted in flatter trajectory and harder-hitting bullets at extended ranges, making the Buntline effective well beyond normal revolver distances. The psychological impact was enormous. Drawing a 12-inch barrel sent clear messages about owner confidence and capabilities. However, the long barrel made the weapon slow to draw and difficult to maneuver in close quarters. Extra length caught on clothing and holsters, making quick-draw techniques nearly impossible. The defining icon, perfect balance achieved. When people think Wild West revolvers, one weapon dominates imagination above all others. The Colt single-action army, known universally as the Peacemaker, wasn't just a revolver. It was the defining weapon of an entire era, carried by more legendary figures than any other frontier firearm. Introduced in 1873, the Peacemaker represented perfect revolver design evolution. The .45 Colt cartridge provided devastating stopping power, while the smooth single-action mechanism allowed precise, controlled shooting. This was the weapon legends like Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, and countless others trusted with their lives. The revolver's balance was absolutely perfect. Unlike earlier heavy revolvers that were muzzle-heavy or awkward, the Peacemaker pointed naturally and felt like an extension of the shooter's hand. This natural handling made it incredibly effective for both precision shooting and rapid fire when situations demanded speed over deliberate aim. The psychological impact cannot be overstated. The distinctive silhouette was instantly recognizable across the frontier. Drawing one sent clear messages about intentions and capabilities. Many gunfights ended not with shots fired, but simply by revealing a peacemaker. Custom variations were endless. Shorter barrels for faster draws, longer barrels for accuracy, special grips for improved handling. Each weapon reflected owner personality and fighting style. The weapon's reliability was legendary. Simple, robust design functioned perfectly even when dirty, wet, or damaged by harsh frontier conditions. This dependability made it the choice of men who couldn't afford mechanical failures when their lives hung in the balance. The cavalry's choice. Military innovation. Even as the Peacemaker dominated civilian markets, military forces demanded something combining latest technology with proven battlefield effectiveness. Imagine a revolver so advanced, the United States cavalry chose it over the famous Colt Peacemaker. So fast to reload, it could turn battle tides in seconds. And so powerful a single shot could stop charging horses. The Schofield wasn't just another revolver. It was a technological marvel many considered superior to any Colt ever made. The Schofield's top-break action was revolutionary for American military use. While Colt users slowly ejected spent cases individually, Schofield users could dump all 6 empties simultaneously and reload in under 10 seconds. In cavalry charges where rapid reloading meant survival, this speed advantage was absolutely decisive. The .45 Schofield cartridge was specifically designed for this revolver, providing excellent stopping power while being perfectly suited to the top-break mechanism. The automatic ejection system meant no stuck cases or extraction problems during the heat of battle. Major Marcus Reno made the Schofield famous during the Indian Wars, preferring it over standard Colts due to rapid reloading capability. Many cavalry officers purchased Schofields with their own money, believing the advantages justified the expense. Jesse James and his gang adopted Schofields for bank robberies, appreciating rapid reloading during extended gun battles with pursuing lawmen. However, complexity made it more expensive than Colts. The mechanism required careful maintenance to function reliably, and the cartridge was less common than .45 Colt, creating ammunition supply challenges in remote areas where every round counted. The ultimate system. Matched pair dominance. Even the most advanced single revolver paled compared to the ultimate expression of frontier firepower. A concept so deadly, it transcended individual weapons entirely. The deadliest revolver of the Wild West wasn't a single model, it was the concept of the matched pair. The deadliest gunfighters didn't rely on one revolver. They carried 2 identical weapons, doubling firepower and eliminating the vulnerability of reloading. Picture Wild Bill Hickok with his famous pair of ivory-handled Navy Colts, or John Wesley Hardin with twin Peacemakers worn in distinctive reverse-draw holster rigs. These weren't just weapons. They were complete fighting systems, making their owners virtually unbeatable in gunfights. The tactical advantages were enormous. 12 shots instead of 6 meant handling multiple opponents or extended gunfights without deadly reloading vulnerability. While single gunfighters counted shots and planned reloads, dual wielders could fight continuously until threats were eliminated. The psychological impact was devastating. Facing someone who drew 2 revolvers simultaneously was intimidating beyond description. It sent clear messages. This person was a professional killer who had invested serious money and training time into becoming as deadly as possible. Hickok's matched Navy Colts became legendary throughout the frontier. His ability to draw and fire both weapons simultaneously with deadly accuracy was considered almost supernatural by contemporary witnesses. Hardin's innovative holster system allowed lightning-fast draws from any position, making him the most feared gunfighter of his era. Dual wielding wasn't just about carrying 2 guns. It required years of practice to master. Shooters had to develop ambidextrous accuracy, learn smooth reloading of both weapons, and coordinate fire for maximum effectiveness. Only the most dedicated gunfighters achieved true mastery. The matched pair represented the ultimate evolution of frontier fighting, where survival depended not just on having good guns, but the best possible guns and skill to use them effectively when death came calling. From the massive Dragoon to the advanced Schofield, these revolvers shaped individual destinies and the entire frontier character. Each represented different survival philosophies: raw stopping power, lightning speed, mechanical innovation, or deadly combinations making owners virtually unbeatable. These weren't just tools. They were the difference between becoming legends and becoming statistics in forgotten frontier cemeteries. In the unforgiving Wild West, revolver choice was everything. The right iron in skilled hands could transform desperate men into walking legends whose names still echo through history. Which of these mechanical marvels impressed you most? Did you realize frontier gunfighters had access to such advanced technology? The Wild West wasn't won by luck or chance. It was carved out by men who understood that superior firepower, combined with deadly skill, meant the difference between writing history and becoming part of it. These revolvers didn't just arm the American frontier, they built it, one perfectly placed bullet at a time.